Visayan society knew no schools or classrooms. Children became functional adults through informal instruction within the family. In the fields of moral, most community recognized some wise and persuasive elder as a kind of pastor who gave advice in household gatherings. Knowledge of the physical environment was learned from parents, the movement of heavenly bodies and change of seasons, the direction of wind and recognition of storm signals, the nature and habits of different species in the animal kingdom. The Visayans called their natural environment banwa, a word which meant mountain, countryside, terrain, climate, and homeland. The banwa covered every island from sea to sea, even into the sea, with mangroves growing in salt water. Spanish explorers were often unable to see coastal villages from the trees. A small Visayan population cuts its settlement rather precautiously out of this banwa, but neither destroyed nor tamed it. Its voracious vegetation was always ready to reclaim their fields and gardens as its crocodiles and pythons were ready to prey on their children and livestock. There are animals the Visayans think of such as bangot or sikop, hawks in whose nest a root or herb could be found which contained the secret of their fishing ability. Barangitaw, a species of small crocodiles friendly to human beings. Basol, a caterpillar whose hairs cause dangerous infection when accidentally touched but were harmless if it was seen before touching. Bukaw, an owl which was a sure sign of death if it was perched on a rooftop. Dumorogmon, a black snake that make bark leaf nests and cured wounded snakes of its kind by applying medical herbs. Kulago or kagwang, a kind of flying squirrel whose loud clear cry at dawn meant there would be no rain. Miro, a civet cat which charmed roasting hens with its eyes so that they can fell from the branch. Visayans believe in an extensive menagerie of fabulous bees or ordinary bees with fabulous qualities. A feature of Filipino life which always attracted Spanish attention was their personal cleanliness, especially the frequency with which they took a bath. Upper-class Visayans wanted to have a pleasing body odor. They therefore scrubbed their bodies with permis when bathing, perfuming, and oiling them afterwards. They were also careful of personal hygiene. Kulkog or kilikog was to clean out the ears with a feather or swab. Silat was a kind of toothpaste made of vegetable husk for cleaning and polishing the teeth. Bobho was a tree whose scrapings were used as a shampoo to get rid of dandruff. Puno was a fine comb for removing head lice or ringworm scales. But despite their attention to personal cleanliness, Visayans suffered skin diseases as one of their most common complaints. Some of these were simple discomforts connected with ordinary activities such as nugas blisters from poisonous plants, ariponga sores between the toes. More serious were alatay or calamayo, which also called as erysipelas. More widespread were bangtas, tabahak or tabukaw ulcers, and bulog glandular swelling, all of which the Spaniards called bubas indiscriminately. Saint Lazarus disease or leprosy was called karanga, kagirkit, or tuyog with amomotol, especially suggesting the loss of fingers or toes. There were 5 general categories of Visayan treatment of disease, which are massage, fumigating or sweating, prescription of medicine, counter-sorcery, and propitiation of supernatural beings. The first 3 were indicated for recognizable physical symptoms, the latter 2 for ailments requiring diagnosis and treatment by religious specialists. Abortions were a common form of family planning practiced by ranking ladies to limit their lineage and preserve their heritage, or by others because of poverty or poor prospects for their children. Tambal were all plants, roots, leaves, or bark with medicinal properties, for which reasons the Spaniards called the tambalan an herbalario, one who has knowledge of plants, their powers and properties. Tambal were taken internally or externally with plasters or poultices distinguished as a haklop or tampus. The Visayans have plans for treatment such as agoho, a tree whose leaves were specific against muscle cramps. Argao, a very medicinal plant, its shoots were boiled and the decoction drunk for stomach ache, its leaves used as a plaster for headache. It was also used in baths to bring down fever. Bangati, a vine used as a preventive for epilepsy. Hagonoy, a plant prescribed for bladder stones or other urinary complaints. Lagtang, a potent vine whose roots was an antidote for poison. Pili, a large tree whose raisins was used as a healing balm or ointment. Salimbagat, a plant whose cooked broth was a specific for bloody stools. Tangan, very peppery seeds from which a medicinal oil was made and whose leaves were good for swellings, chills, and sores. Tigaw, a small tree whose leaves, smoked like tobacco or decoction drunk, were good for coughs. There were also medicines of animal or mineral origin such as the soil of abandoned termite mounds was good for fumigating. Calculus stones found in a shark's head were a cure for similar stones in the human bladder or kidney. A powdered duyong bones were also a panacea, good for bloody stool, diarrhea, colds, and fever. A kind of jet black coral was not only taken internally, pulverized, but worn on the wrist as a jewelry as a preventive for rheumatic pains. Antidotes for poison often had properties more magical than medical. For example, the marginals of a turtle shell or buntok were said to crack in contact with any poison. Diseases with no visible symptoms or those which stubbornly resisted treatment as well as chronic or lingering illness were attributed to spirits, ancestral or otherwise, who had been unwittingly or wittingly offended by the behavior of the person afflicted. These required diagnosis and prescription by Baibalan or Daytan, shamans or mediums able to contact the spirit world in a state of trance to learn the nature of the offense and what was required for satisfaction. Prescriptions were the performance of a specific paganito involving the sacrifice of a live animal or other food offerings. These are the ways of the natural science of the Prehispanic people.